What is up, everyone? Brandon First, aka First Report, representing the Off the Bench Podcast Network. It is time for another edition here of our NFL preview show where we're going to look at the conference championship games as we are only 2 weeks away from Super Bowl Sunday. Of course, couldn't do it without my co-host. We have Brianna Winter, unable to be here tonight, but we got myself and Raider Jim Martinez and Coach Brandon Lupian. You can find Raider Jim at Raider Jim 1090, and Coach Lupian is at Portland 76er. Raider Jim, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing well. Every week's a good week, especially when we're going to talk football. We've only got a couple more of these to do, but I'm sure we can find ways to continue the conversation even after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think the NFL, what do they say? It's a 365-day sport. It's going to be
That's
at the
right.
front of headlines. And obviously, once the Super Bowl ends, the draft becomes apparent. And,
That's correct.
first and foremost. And then plenty more after that. The NFL doesn't really stop churning out the news. Coach Lupian, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Doing fine, thank you, gentlemen. And yes, unfortunately, Miss Winter isn't here, but she's serving the better purpose, educating our young youths, our youths, as on my cousin Vinny, the judge would say, the two youths. It's one of my favorite all time.
Yes. It's whenever I have friends or whatever watching a college football game and Utah's up there and they're like, hey, what are Utah? And I say, oh, it's the Utes. And obviously, look, I know the Utes are a tribe in that area, but I would always make the joke, oh, they're Utes, but they just have and not a whole lot of people got it, but I knew Coach Lupian would. That's the best way to go about that. So with that, before we get into this weekend's games, obviously only two. So we'll take a minute to just kind of talk about last week. And before the podcast, we were kind of talking about how the NFL, it just seems like the last 2 or 3 weeks, there have been some games that have just been absolute head scratchers, completely gone the opposite. I know I'll start mine with last week. It was obviously I was high on Baltimore. If you would have said the game finishes 17-3, I would have thought Baltimore pulled that one off just because of the way things have been going. But the Bills defense was absolutely ferocious. I will go out and say I was a little critical, I would say, about the play calling of Baltimore. I feel like they abandoned the run way too quickly. I don't think they were ever fully to the point where they had to, start chucking the ball down the field, minus, when they went down 17-3 late. Obviously, the interception was tough, or the pick six, I should say. But it's been really, really tough. But what about you, Raider Jim? The past couple weeks, what have you noticed in everything?
Yeah, it's the chemistry of everything here. It really is. It's like the science project. Is it really the Bills defense was that good? Or was it, as you just alluded to, the play calling on the Baltimore side of the ball? And so you just kind of have to look at what's really happened. Kansas City, I mean, look what happened with Kansas City. They still pulled it out. That was really a lucky thing. In my estimation, it was a lucky thing. So it's the playoffs have not been kind to me by any stretch, but the games have been good. The most consistent one for me has been still Green Bay, and they are just leading the way. And I believe you can still get as far as AFC championship goes. I think you're still at 300 plus if you grab the Bills over Kansas City. And right now that looks like it might be a bet worth considering.
Definitely. And we will get to that one in a bit, but also to kind of echo what Raider Jim talked about. Yeah, the Packers have seemed to, even really all year, very quietly just covering the spreads. The Chiefs haven't. And we saw that this past week with or without Mahomes. I don't think they would have covered, but anyways, that's another story. And the Packers have just slowly but surely racked up these wins. They've had moments, I think there was a couple games against the Lions where you just kind of, they still pulled it out, but obviously didn't cover or things like that, but those rivalry games. Coach Lupian, what about yourself? Obviously, my condolences, tough way to go out, but really a hell of a season and really a hell of a ride for, I think I can go out on a limb saying this, the greatest athlete in New Orleans history.
What this guy's done for the city of New Orleans after Katrina, getting them their little Super Bowl, going out there and being, the face of a franchise for how many years, yeah, tough way to go out. And yeah, I'm not too happy about it, but at the end of the day, it is sports, and there's got to be a winning team and a losing team. But to kind of get back to our thoughts on these last couple of weeks, I know the last couple of shows I've talked about the immaturity of Buffalo Bills, and I think the majority of us on this show could probably say they really didn't play well enough to win against Indy, but they pulled it out, right? And it wasn't until probably halftime where they didn't really play well enough to beat Baltimore, but pulled it out in the second half. So I talked about the immaturity of them. It scared me. I think we just saw a lot more maturity, especially in that middle of fourth quarter. That's kind of scary, and I'm really excited about the Kansas City matchup. But also what's bothered me is I think we're seeing the inexperience of some of these head coaches. You guys have brought up the play calling. Man, Cleveland really laid an egg after that INT. And a lot of it had to do with Stefanski's play calling. He called those plays not to lose. He didn't go for the win, and he needed to. That's what separates winners and losers. And it showed in his inexperience. So, it's unfortunate. I really liked Cleveland in that game. And after that interception, I said, all they got to do is run the ball. All they got to do is make that short pass. All they got to do is put the ball in the end zone. I mean, as if that's not hard enough. But the momentum was there for them to take, and the play calling held them back. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this weekend.
Definitely.
And Green Bay, yeah, quietly, they've just done what Green Bay's been doing the last couple of years. And the difference between last year and this year, they're shoring up some of the loose ends. They got an elite wide receiver that's drawing all kinds of attention, leaving other guys wide open. And the maturity of LaFleur is tweaking everything that everyone knew from last season. And they're just on a good page all on offense and play calling. Aaron Rodgers, they're just on a good roll. So it's going to be a good weekend.
I agree. And before we get into it, one last thing. Look, we are all based in the Southern California, San Diego area. And today, Philip Rivers obviously announcing his retirement. I think most of us it was coming. We know that. But he did announce his retirement. And, for me, growing up in this area, obviously I'm an Eagle fan now, but that was after the Chargers left my hometown. So I had to adopt my dad's hometown because my hometown didn't have a team at that point. I'm not a fan of LA. And I don't plan on being one anytime soon. So, but growing up, it was obviously, as the Chargers, it was a lot of some rough years. Craig Wheelahans, Moses Moreno. There was Doug Flutie was actually kind of the top of the ones that would roll through there. There were some really, really not only bad football teams, but bad quarterbacks. I mean, with all due respect to Stan Humphries, I mean, he has to be one of the worst quarterbacks to ever play in a Super Bowl, right? So it was just for the Chargers to get Philip Rivers. One of the biggest disappointments was, of course, him not being able to get that ring. And of course, the Marlon McCree game, as I will forever remember it as, that was the big reason why it didn't happen. But for Philip Rivers, a San Diego icon, even in his post, thanking the fans and all that stuff, he thanked the fans from San Diego. He made no mention of Los Angeles. He thanked the fans from San Diego from the beginning. He knew that this team deserved to be in San Diego. I'll always respect him for that, but it is really the end of the San Diego Chargers, essentially. But Phillip Rivers, just San Diego icon, had to pass that along. Gentlemen, any thoughts to add on to that?
Yeah, as I said last week, the only reason I never cared for Phillip Rivers is he was wearing the wrong colors, and he made a habit out of 2 times a year beating up on the Raiders. But other than that, I sure, to not like the guy wearing the other uniform is one thing, but that does not mean by any stretch that I don't have a great amount of respect for his ability. There were aspects of his game that I alluded to last week, which were kind of like, okay, you got to kind of calm it down a little bit. I mean, I appreciate the fire, but just cool it down a little bit. Regardless, that was Phillip Rivers, and he was always true to himself, always true to the game, and you knew you were going to get 110% out of the guy. He was never going to give up on you. That was never, ever an issue. And yeah, he's kind of gone the way of the Tony Gwynn. As good as Gwynn was, and thankfully the Padres always stayed in San Diego, and Gwynn always wore the Padre colors, but Tony never got his ring either. He made it to the show, but he never got his ring. And it's too bad to see the likes of a Phillip Rivers, even though it would have been the same way that Junior Seau and Rodney Harrison got their rings by going and putting on a different jersey. He deserved that accolade and that achievement. So, but congratulations to him on a great career. I'm sure, he's definitely, with his 9 kids or whatever the tally is now, he's got plenty to keep him busy. And I'm glad he's getting out with all his faculties, and he's going to be able to enjoy them to the fullest.
Amen. And yeah, it's he was always somebody that I saw a thing today, like his best of mic'd up, and that's a time you could sit down with the kids and watch him mic'd up, and you hear a lot of golly geez, and it's just really, really funny. Coach Lupian, any thoughts on Phillip Rivers?
I've never really been a fan of his, but respectfully speaking, the dude is a competitor to the utmost. It's unfortunate he did play on a lot of bad teams. It probably stunted his career numbers. But that's not his issue. That's not our issue. That's those people that put teams together's issue. They really did a disservice to the guy. But that goes around all the league, all the teams in the league. I do wish, I hope I'm picking this up like what Raider Jim said. I do wish he toned it down and acted like he's completed that pass before, or acted like he's won before. But that goes into the fire and the competitor that he is. Great career in the NFL, and best of luck in whatever he has moving forward. And he replaced the legend in Breeze, and that's tough shoes to fill. And it's unfortunate he didn't get a chance to get the ring, just like a lot of guys that play for San Diego teams too, so respectfully, great career. I'm sure he's a great dad, great father, just a great person, great human being. And
right.
There's you can always say there's not enough of those guys.
Yeah.
And best of luck for him and his future endeavors.
Yeah, agreed. And like he's pretty much got a football team there, so he can start beginning his coaching there with those little ones. But yeah, if your biggest complaint about a guy is he's either too fiery or something like that, then that's fine. Like I said, I don't think Phillip Rivers would have been would have been the same if it wasn't all in with Phillip Rivers. And for the most part, let's be honest, a lot of it was in jest. I don't think it was ever anything personal. But moving on to the task at hand. Championship Sunday. I talked about it last week. For me, this is my favorite weekend of football. It's essentially the 4 best teams. We get to figure out who the Super Bowl is. the Super Bowl is kind of like a roller coaster at Disneyland. You wait in line for, an hour and a half and you only get about, a minute of satisfaction. We're going to have 2 weeks and, seems like 12 hours of pregame now before we actually get to the game. It's unbelievable. I feel like the pregame, it's like Black Friday. It starts on Monday at this point, all the way before Thanksgiving. But anyways, at the moment we have Green Bay favored by 3.5 to host Tampa Bay. 51 is the over-under number. Let's start with you there, Raider Jim.
Yeah, I think in week 1 of the regular season, after week 1 and then week 2 and week 3, I was just very high on Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. He just seemed like he really, really, really had done his, continued to do his work and refine and hone his skills. He has had a fantastic season. He's carrying it on. They are healthy. And again, we talked about the play calling of the Ravens or some of the other teams. Why it's the coaches, and maybe that's the younger coaches or the coaches who maybe not necessarily younger, but haven't been in the head coaching situations that say an Andy Reid has been in. But at the same time, Green Bay, while they don't have that great of tenure, that long of tenure in the head coaching position, but they got Aaron Rodgers on the field. And you pretty much have a coach on the field. And his offensive line is firing. His receivers are great. His running game is just enough to keep him in the game. They really are a multi-headed monster out there. And again, the defense, the linebacking core, watch out. They're going to do good. And they are still my favorite to win this one, cover this one. And I still see them winning the Super Bowl. I don't think that there is, of the 4 teams left, I don't see anybody beating the Green Bay Packers. For sentimental sakes, and you guys wouldn't even have a clue, I would kind of like to see the Chiefs pull it out on Sunday and then watch the nostalgic films show up of Super Bowl I before it wasn't even called Super Bowl. There's some great films out there.
Yeah, it was like 25 cents. I think it was the Rose Bowl, maybe 25 cents. They always bring those up, in the Super Bowl. Like I said, that 12 hours to fill, they always kind of show the old Super Bowls. And yeah, I think it was like the AFL NFL championship. And then 3 years later, they decided, Super Bowl sounds good, so we'll name it in retrospect. But yeah, that would be actually incredible. I actually think Drew Brees, or I'm sorry, Tom Brady was a backup quarterback on one of those teams. But no, I'm just kidding. Moving on to you, Coach. What are your thoughts? Tampa Bay heading to Green Bay.
I really don't know. I've really kind of had a loss for the season. I'm like so in the Padre season right now and off season. Just after Sunday, it's just kind of been a long, around 72 hours right now. That's what I'm dealing with. But good for them. Good for Tom Brady. Green Bay, they're doing it with a lot of no-name guys on defense. And that's kind of scary, and that's kind of uncertain as far as how I'm going to go with this. You mentioned it was only 3.5.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of surprised how close these odds makers are getting these numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, geez, what do they know that we don't? I do know this: Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers have been in this situation before, right? I do know that Tampa Bay's defense is clicking on all cylinders. I do know that Green Bay is built around their town, their weather, and Tampa Bay isn't. And I do know that, that these are 2 teams that have one chance, because I don't think we're going to see these teams as they are in the next season or 2. I don't think Tom Brady is going to fulfill his full contract. Who knows what Aaron Rodgers is going to do when they drafted Love, a quarterback, to back him up, and he's proving those guys in the front office wrong. But 3.5, it's intriguing. that it's that number because of how well and how hot Tampa Bay's gone into the playoffs. So I like Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay because the home field advantage, but that 0.5 is really kind of like, oh, okay. There goes that home field advantage number there, you know?
Yeah.
So
I did just check it out. They're forecasting light snow. So not enough to, have the full, fields covered, at least, we're once again, this is, a full 3 days before they're going to kick off. So a lot can change there, but Tom Brady, he's not going to be scared away by the snow. Both of you kind of alluded to it with Aaron Rodgers. I think a lot changed on draft night. He was kind of like, when you are, maybe with someone and, something happens and your eye wanders and then you start a relationship with that other person, and it was a little scandalous, blah, blah, blah. And then 5 or 6 years down the road, all of a sudden you see kind of the same things that was happening that you were doing. And you go, wait, hold on. I've been here before, but on the other side. It's kind of what it was when he was drafted. Obviously, Brett Favre wasn't a huge fan of that pick and was not, he wasn't a big mentor, let's just put it that way, for Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers has made it pretty clear he is going to go about it the same way. He is not here to mentor, love, or anything like that. But at the same time, I think it really did work out for Aaron Rodgers to be able to sit for, I think it was 3 years. And now it's Aaron Rodgers now a big middle finger to every single human being who is involved in the picking of Jordan Love. Everybody. I mean, all the way down to the janitor at Utah State somehow. Aaron Rodgers has a chip on his shoulder the size of Alaska, and he's been walking around with it since he was the 26th pick till, they made him sit in the green room. That's how he thinks about things. And while I'm not a fan of that, and I wouldn't go out and try and befriend people like that, I tell you what, that's a big weapon to have in this industry. And he's showing it. He's going to win MVP. I would, it would take some crazy votes. I know Derrick Henry and Josh Allen have had good years, but Aaron Rodgers has been there. I like the Packers to cover this. I know the Buccaneers have kind of been that, team that's come out of nowhere, and maybe that chic pick, but I'm still not sold on them. Obviously, they finally did slay that dragon that was the Saints last week. Aaron Rodgers on another level. With all due respect to Drew Brees, I don't think we saw 100% Drew Brees. I don't think we've seen 100% Drew Brees for quite some time. But I know after 11 cracked ribs this year, that Drew was not 100%. Aaron Rodgers will be as close to 100% as any quarterback is left in this right now. So how do you stop that? I don't think they have enough firepower in the Buccaneers. I do like the over here, just because I do think we're going to see two quarterbacks that we talked about it earlier. If the wind isn't absolutely swirling, the snow isn't going to get into their face too much. If it's a light snow, these are guys who have plenty of experience in the weather and the conditions. So I like the Packers here to cover that 3.5. I'd probably wait and see if it can get back to 3. But if we are on Sunday and it is still 3.5, I'd definitely tease it down, or not tease it, but drop it down to 3 just in case, hey, a field goal comes in late. We'll take the draw and push it on to the next game. But that's going to be a good game. I'm really excited for that. Brady versus Rodgers. Finally, it's very, very interesting to see. In the last 27 years, the Cowboys and Tom Brady have been in the NFC Championship game the equal amount of times. And this is the first year for Tom Brady in the NFC. Just thought I'd point that out as an Eagle fan. Oh, Raider Jim, we lost audio on you.
Bueller?
Not yet.
Bueller?
I can hear you.
Now?
There we go. Perfect.
Okay.
All good.
So they are, the Packers are 3-0 against the spread the last 3 games. They also hit over on the last 3 games. So strong bet there.
There you
And the
go. Yeah.
spreads on those, they were -3, -4.5, and a -7 against the Rams. They covered every one of them.
Yeah. And the Rams game wasn't really, I mean, I think it was 32-18 when it was all said and done, but I don't even think it was really that close. It never really felt like the Rams had a real big shot. It was just a matter of would they cover, and they did. But
Right.
really good opportunity there. Seemed to be with the Packers on that one. Moving on to Sunday's night game or afternoon game, wherever you are. Buffalo heads to Kansas City. And as I speak, the tables in the greater New York area are shivering as to what could happen on Sunday, as the Chiefs are 3-point favorites. The over-under is 54. It opened at 56. We talked about on there earlier before we went on. The unders have been king the first 3 weeks or 2 weeks of the playoffs. And it seems like a 56, when it opened at 56, the early bettors were there. It's already been driven down to 54. Coach Lupian, we'll start with you. Chiefs 3-point favorites against the Bills.
Yeah, when it came to the Chiefs and the Browns, I said it earlier. I don't think the coaching staff called or played the game to win. And that's kind of unfortunate because they had an opportunity, of Knox. You got to take advantage, and that's just showing some youth in its own right. There's youth on Buffalo's own right now, as far as their coaching staff goes, as far as the players go. And I talked about the immaturity of this team. Well, I'm going to talk about the immaturity and the adversity of facing it. And they've been able to pull it out. I'm a huge Josh Allen fan. And I'm going to stick with them. And I know our brethren from the Bills Mafia, Joe Pinella, will probably agree with me and say, go Bills. So I'm going to order myself a big old plate of buffalo wings for the game, root them on, and you know, who knows? Do we even know how Mahomes is with the concussion?
He practiced, or he's green light. I think he'll be good to go. I know that there's 2 or 3 days they always still check on you. Sometimes maybe you wake up and you're dizzy, and that will then change things. But as of right now, he's all set to go.
I'm going Bills. I'll go with the over because KC just hasn't proved enough to not stop anyone. And like it or not, you're a hungry dog. You're gonna go feed. So
hungry dogs run faster.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll pick up on this one. For me, this is interesting. I like Kansas City to cover here, and I don't want Kansas City to win. I want Buffalo. I think unless you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan or you're related to anybody on there, you want to see Buffalo, fresh meat. And of all the fan bases at least in the United States, I mean, I don't know the world, but at least in the United States, I think they have to be at the top to where, we go back like 3 or 4 years ago where I think it was Tennessee or somebody, maybe it was Fitzpatrick, had made a touchdown pass late that got Buffalo in, and they donated to his charity. And even this past weekend, I think $37,000 to Lamar Jackson's fund charity down in, I believe, Louisville. And I mean, that's just awesome. All the other stuff aside, that at the end of the day, they helped out people that really, they need it. So if football can do that and Bills Mafia can do that, that's fantastic. Unfortunately, I think it's going to end this weekend. The last week, they saw an offense that has the capabilities of being ferocious and full of weapons and can score at will. Well, this week they are facing a team that does that. All of the above. I mean, when you can look at Mecole Hardman, could probably be one of the biggest playmakers on any other team. I mean, we're talking would be a household name, I firmly believe, on any other team. And this guy can barely get on the field for special teams. He gets out there for gadget plays and makes 20-yard plays happen immediately. The weapons are endless for this team. You also have, I believe, the best coach in football, in Andy Reid. The play call to go for it on fourth, that's not, you don't even do that in Madden. I mean, that was just unbelievable. And then for him to do that with a backup quarterback, it's absolutely incredible. You can, put in all the memes you want about the size of his man parts, but that was what is needed. And he did what needed to be done. He is the first coach, or the Chiefs are the first team to make it to 3 straight conference championships since, well, Andy Reid's Philadelphia Eagles did it. So, I mean, you just kind of see what this guy's done. He's set the bar so high. And the last thing I'll say about this, I'm going to take Kansas City to win, or to cover this spread. Once again, 2.5 is right where I like it. I could see this being a field goal game. No big deal. 2.5, perfect right there. I do like the under here. I think we'll see some wind. I think we've seen that in Kansas City. 54 is still a bit high. Just try and get an under in. But one last thing I do want to talk about. We saw, the Jared Wolfords, or the Tyler Heineke and stuff like that. And as great as Heineke was, both of those teams would have killed to have Chad Henne as your backup. And that's something that we go back, and I know it was COVID, so there are a lot of weird things with backups. Even the the Ravens, when Lamar Jackson goes down, I mean, who is this kid? It's hard. I mean, yeah, he went to Utah. Okay, now I remember him, but this kid's playing to try and get these guys into a conference championship game. It seems like the backup quarterback is just kind of I remember Peter King saying it. Your 2 most important positions are your quarterback and your backup quarterback. And right. Chad Henne won that game for the Chiefs, or at least put them in that position. So I look at some of these other teams that had to run with AAF quarterbacks and quarterbacks that were taking finals, which, as cool the story that is, you're not going to do very much with that. And Chad Henne, when he was called upon, the vet got it done.
Right. I kind of equate that to, and again, I'm certainly not comparing wins and losses in successive seasons, but that was the lone, or one of the few promising things as a Raider fan that I saw this year. And that is, oh my gosh, Derek Carr went down. What are we going to do? And they brought in the kid, and he just went off. And he was a man, put the team on his shoulder. And that's exactly what the Chiefs have right now. Plus, as you just said, they have Andy Reid. And there's the difference. The players must love that. These are all veterans out there. They've got the Super Bowl ring. So when their Super Bowl head coach says, we're going to do this on 4th down, all they do is smile and say, coach says we're doing this on 4th down. And they already believe they're going to get it done. So, yeah, I don't... not to take anything at all away from Buffalo, but 2.5, I'm with you. I'll take that. Now, the under on this one, I would be more inclined to bet, and mainly because I just looked up the weather report. It says there's 80% chance of pretty strong rain in Kansas City on Sunday at that time, and it's going to be cold. It's going to be between 30, 40 degrees. Who knows if something's going to kick up and the temperatures drop and you start seeing a little bit of ice out there too. So I think that just definitely puts us in the under category for that one. But, again, keep your fingers crossed. You might see that Super Bowl one repeat of the very first football championship game of the Green Bay Packers and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I think that would be, I don't think anyone would have a problem with that. I mean, obviously the people in Tampa Bay and the fans of the Bills and Buccaneers would have a problem with it. But if you're a football fan, Patrick Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers. If you don't like that, then I'm sure there's a flag football game in your neighborhood that you can go check out.
Yeah, and the only other thing, and we talked about Chad Henne and how, great compliment to the game, because you want a guy like that if your Patrick Mahomes goes down. The only thing that I've read so far is Andy Reid said, the kid looks great. You know, Patrick Mahomes looks great. Well, that's your ribs talking on, and your head talking on behalf of Patrick Mahomes. Look at the picture of him when his O linemen are holding him up. He's out. Yeah, your eyes can be open and you're out. He's out. And guys will tell you, oh, yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm good to go. I'm good to go. One wrong hit, it's going to be bad, real bad. So we'll see how well he does. I hope he is, but I also understand he might have tweaked his left foot somewhere along the way, which if you're going to option that guy at all, well, let's see if he can, because if it's his left foot and he's going to try to pivot on that and throw across his body or do some of his cute moves, we'll see if that hampers him at all. Yeah, one more reason to look at the under.
And another thing, we're talking about feet. Well, guess what? The weather is not going to do him any favors with the footing. One wrong move, and hey, that plantar flange, whatever it is going to be howling at him. And yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see, obviously, how he reacts to it. And another thing with the tackle, there were some people saying, you know, he didn't even hit his head. How can it be a concussion? Concussion is considered when your brain hits your skull. So in Patrick Mahomes's case, his was a whiplash effect. So his head did not hit the ground, no, but his head moved and then got to a point, you know, it's that centrifugal, whatever it is, where this part stops and then the brain continued on, hit the skull. Because yeah, if you do watch the replay, you go, no, he didn't hit his head. How can that? But it's the movement, it's the whiplash effect that the brain, you know, goes through, or, you know, stays out of its fluid and goes and hits the cranium. And that's when you have bruised brains. That's when CTE begins, obviously. So the health is first and foremost for Patrick Mahomes. But I also I would imagine that if anybody is going to give an accurate injury report, Andy Reid is the last person that is going to give us an
you're not going to tell the other guys, boy, he's hurting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. That's what I would think. There's something up his sleeve, but yeah, what going to be a great weekend. And we'll be back always. You know, we're going to be back here every week as we start looking ahead to obviously the Super Bowl. And then even in the off season, obviously the shows won't be as long, but there's going to be stuff that's going to be coming out. We'll have plenty to talk about. But final thoughts, gentlemen, for this Championship Sunday preview. Coach, we'll start with you.
Yeah, you know, it's just going to be a nice weekend. You know, we go on our two B's on a pod on Saturday and talk about what a great start it is. Watching football this weekend is going to be a great ending to it. So I'm looking forward to it. And you know, dealing with COVID and all this all season long, hey, we're here without stoppages, and we're here, and we should all be kind of like lucky we're there and blessed that we have an opportunity to watch some high quality football at the end of the day.
Amen. Raider Jim.
Oh, I'm looking forward to the last two games of the playoffs. Get ready for the Super Bowl. And if by some chance it ends up the Packers and the Chiefs, sit back next week, because I'm the only one of the three of us that was alive when that game was played. And I can tell you stories. And I think along the way, I have met one or two of the guys that actually played in that. I actually got to meet Bart Starr one time.
Wow.
And yeah. So the guys that were the stars back then, and of course you talk about Coach Lombardi, you talk about Coach Stram, and wow, that was a good game.
Yeah, that's really kind of the birth of where we are for the NFL. The super sport that it is, at least in this country, where we literally can talk about it 365 days a year, because there is always something coming out. Even in its, you know, furthest off season days. But as always, an absolute pleasure here on Wednesday night. We obviously missed Brianna, but she will be back next week or the week after very soon. And it's always a great time to sit and talk anything with these two gentlemen. And football is obviously not off the table. I have a lot of fun doing it. And we're definitely learning that sometimes, you know, let's just let's just talk about it. We don't got to, die on the cross here for a 0.5 here or a point there. I think most of us, you follow us on Twitter. Once again, I'll throw those out there. Raider Jim 1090, coach is at Portland 76er. I'm at First Report FERST. But you follow our Twitters. We got plenty of stuff dropping throughout the week as well. So thank you, gentlemen, as always, for your time.
My pleasure.
And everyone listening as well, thank you all so much for listening tonight. And as always, so make sure you like and subscribe and give us a shout out whenever you can. And now it is time for you all to go wash your hands and stop hating everybody and have a wonderful week and enjoy those games. Take care.
Peace out, everybody.